Support Pause and Support Gear by Sunset Cougar. Chapter 18 Other Classes. Alright, so before we begin, I do want to let you know that there are a couple of trigger warnings for this episode, for this chapter. The first of which being explosions, and the second is menstruation. Please don't come at me for that second one. I personally find nothing weird about it, but there are people who are triggered by it, so I felt the need to include that. Also, before we begin, I just wanted to thank you guys for sticking around and enjoying the stories with me. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and get into the chapter. 1H were eating lunch together in the cafeteria when they were approached by two students. One had short, curly black hair, dark brown eyes, warm brown skin, and was built like a swimmer. At least his top half was. His lower half was a long tail that mostly rested in a pouch underneath the seat of his wheelchair. It resembled a koi betta fish's, except much longer. If Izuku had to guess, he'd estimate it was around 10 feet long, not including the caudal fin. The second person looked like a stereotypical ghost. She was see-through, had chest-length white hair, pure white eyes, and snowy skin.
Hello,
The ghost-like girl said with a smile.
my name is Isariyamiya, and this is Hatori Kenichi.
She gestured at the boy and he waved.
We're the class presidents of classes 1F and 1G respectively. We figured we should probably introduce ourselves, since we were automatically rivals being in different classes and all. I'm 1H's class president. My name is Okita Rika. Toftbjorn is my vice.
Toft waved to indicate it was him Okita was talking about.
It's nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you as well. I heard you guys already got the attention of some of the 1A kids, Hatori said, immediately getting down to business. Yep, I'm redoing the costume of the kid with the bird head in 1A, Nakano said. So don't try to take him.
May and I made most of the costume and support gear for the boy with fluffy purple hair in 1A,
Izuku added.
We're his suppliers. Got it. I'm planning on talking to the girls from both classes. Their costumes aren't great,
Isuri said with a frown. Then she spotted a group of said girls a few tables away, just sitting down with their food. Seeing an opportunity, she excused herself and walked over to them. She didn't make a sound as she moved, just like a movie ghost. Realizing the competition was now on, Okita jumped from her seat to go promote 1H.
Well, I suppose we'll see who's the best support class in our year,
Toph said, shaking hands with Hatori. That we will, Hatori agreed. I wish your class the best of luck with your inventions.
I wish the same to yours,
Toph replied. Hikari was sitting on a couch in the staff room, enjoying his lunch and a mug of coffee. He wasn't on cafeteria duty today, so he got a peaceful lunch. Hey, Madoka, he said as the 1F homeroom teacher sat on the couch across from his. That one had a gap in the bottom of the back crust for tails. Bondo Madoka had a mutation quirk called Dragon, which made her a primarily dark blue dragon. Her snout, horns, spikes, throat, hands, lower arms, feet, lower legs, and the underside of her tail and wings were gold. Nomura Minako, the 1G homeroom teacher, sat in an armchair between the two of them. She had curly blonde hair, lavender eyes, fair skin, and was built like a 7'1" brick. Higari greeted her as well. How's your guys' day been going so far? Madoka asked. After teaching together for 6 years, they were all on a first-name basis. My class is chaotic, to say the least, Higari replied. There's 2 students, Midoriya and Hatsume, who have known each other for a few years, and it shows. They work wonderfully together, but they're absolute menaces. They've caused more explosions than the rest of the class combined. Minako snorted. Let's see.
I was lucky. My class is pretty calm this time around. There hasn't been any major property damage or injuries. Not yet, at least. Lucky,
Madoka said.
My class managed to cause a gas leak, and we had to evacuate the whole corner of the school. We're lucky a fire didn't start, especially considering one of my students breathes fire.
Higari winced in sympathy. That sounds bad. So, Minako, you claim your class is calm. What's the worst they've done?
They put their vice president in a straitjacket and hung her from the ceiling because she said she put milk before the cereal.
You're right. That is calm. I would have expected a crucifixion.
Same here,
Madoka agreed.
Where did they get the straitjacket?
1 second, y'all.
I have no idea, but I'm kind of afraid to ask.
Higari nodded.
Sometimes it's best just not to know.
All of a sudden, they all felt a chill go up their spines. They shared a look before bolting from the staff room to the cafeteria. Madoka and Higari yanked the students away from the box they were crowded around, while Minako used her quirk to create a force field around it. Less than 5 seconds later, it exploded, completely vaporizing the corner of the table it was sitting on. All 3 teachers turned to look at the culprits. They were from Class 1G. Minako sighed deeply, shoulders slumping. So much for her having the calm class. Kasumi was miserable. Rolling waves of pain in her gut made her nauseous as she held the heat pack over it, wishing it did more. She hated being female. She hated that her body did this every damn month. She hated how much it hurt and how much time she wasted scrubbing blood out of her clothes and sheets. There was a knock at her door and Kasumi called.
Who is it? Okida,
The class president called back. Sorry about that. My brain had a disconnect for a sec.
You didn't show up for class this morning, so I came to check on you. Can I come in? Yeah.
Okida opened the door, and as soon as she saw Kasumi, her face filled with sympathy.
Are you on your period? Yeah. Is there anything I can get for you?
Kasumi thought for a moment before answering.
Can I have some chocolate? Of course. I'll be back in a couple of minutes.
True to her word, a couple of minutes later, Okita returned holding a bar of chocolate. Kasumi took it, broke off a square, and put it in her mouth, letting it dissolve.
Thanks. You're amazing. It's no problem.
Okita assured.
I'll tell the teachers you're not feeling well. Before I go, is there anything else you want or need? No, I'm good. Thanks again. You're welcome. I hope you feel better soon. Feel free to text me anytime if you need anything.
Okita insisted on giving the whole class her number so they could contact her about any problems. She took her role as class president very seriously. Okita left to go back to class and Kasumi rolled onto her side, closing her eyes to try and take a nap. Excuse me, one sec, y'all. Hitoshi wasn't sure how it was possible to love someone this much. He didn't fully understand all of the emotions that came with that love, like the way his heart seemed to swell every time he looked at Izuku, or how butterflies appeared in his stomach whenever they touched. Logically, he knew he was still in the honeymoon phase of his relationship. Logically, he knew most teen romances didn't last. But for once he put aside logic and just let himself feel. He let himself feel giddy and warm and happy. Happiness had been a rare emotion in his life before his parents adopted him, so he basked in every little bit he got. Hitoshi was sitting on his bed, Izuku in front of him and Clover's head on Izuku's lap. Hitoshi hummed quietly to himself as he ran the brush through the thick green curls, working out the knots. Izuku's eyes were closed and he wore a content expression. His hair stopped just past his shoulders, not long enough to be a bother, but not so short it couldn't be pulled back. Hitoshi's humming unconsciously turned to quiet singing. I've been reading books of old, the legends and the myths, Achilles and his gold, Achilles and his gifts, Spider-Man's control, and Batman with his fists. And clearly I don't see myself upon that list. Hitoshi continued singing, slowly raising his voice from the whisper he had started at. He loved singing, but so many years of being told his voice was a curse made him reluctant to do so. When he reached the end of the song, Izuku looked over his shoulder and said,
That was beautiful. I didn't know you could sing.
Hitoshi shrugged, a bit embarrassed.
I don't do it often. Most people don't like hearing my voice. Well, I like hearing it. It's beautiful, no matter what, if you're singing or just talking. I could listen to your voice for hours.
Hitoshi's cheeks grew hot and he was sure he was bright red. He smiled at Izuku, knowing he definitely looked love-struck. I love you so much.
I love you just as much,
Izuku replied, smiling back.
Let's switch spots. You pamper me so much. I have to return the favor. I can also listen to more of your singing, if you want to.
Alright. Hitoshi agreed, setting down the brush. They switched spots and Izuku started brushing his hair. Hitoshi had a sensitive head, so the brush sent pleasant tingles through him as it ran over his skin. This kind of attention also helped with his headaches, which was a big bonus. Hitoshi took a deep breath and started singing again. This time a song he'd listened to countless times. It made him feel hopeful and like he could truly reach his dreams, no matter how high they were. Alright, I don't know this song, so I can't sing it, but I'll say it. I don't ever want to be someone who will never recognize himself. I don't ever want to be someone hollow from the inside out. This could be all we've been looking for. This could be all we've been waiting for. Uh-oh, 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 uh-oh. Izuku soon started tapping his foot to the beat of the song. Then he asked,
"Dance with me?"
Hitoshi grinned and got to his feet, turning his phone speaker up as he started playing the song. He took most of Izuku's weight as they started dancing, Hitoshi singing along to the music. I don't ever want to be someone who follows everybody else. When everyone is busy out chasing, I'll make another road myself. 'Cause I know I was meant for something more. There's gotta be something here worth fighting for. There was. There was so much more worth fighting for. So he would keep fighting, even when he felt like it was impossible. He'd keep fighting and he'd take the path he wanted, even if he had to pave it himself. On and on we're dreaming, back to where we first believed in. We can write our names out in the stars. Oh, and on we're moving. Close above, we're never losing, never giving up on who we are. Izuku tripped and fell onto the bed, dragging Hitoshi down with him. They lay there, laughing and grinning so hard their cheeks hurt. I love you so much, Hitoshi said. Can I kiss you?
Yes,
Izuku agreed. So Hitoshi kissed him. Izuku leaned into it, face flushed.
You're so amazing,
Izuku murmured when they pulled apart.
I don't know how anyone could ever doubt that.
I don't know how anyone could ever say you'd amount to nothing, Hitoshi replied. You'll rewrite the stars. Put them where you want to, so the sky itself spells out your name. Then everyone will have to see you. Alright, y'all. So, this chapter, all in all, was pretty great. A lot of stuff going on. Rivalry between the classes. Let's go for that. I do want to apologize real quick for the spottiness in a few spots on the voices on this chapter. I wasn't always super clear who was speaking at times for me. But anyways, Chapter 19, USJ. Alright, so there are some trigger warnings for this chapter. The triggers are scars, harassment, fake drowning, and mentions of abuse. If any of them are missed, please let me know and I will make a change in the description. But that being said, let's go ahead and get into the chapter. Much like Shota, Hitoshi had the sometimes uncanny ability to pretend to be asleep. Also like Shota, he used said ability to listen in on conversations around him. Was it a morally questionable thing to do? Yes. Did they do it anyway? Also yes. Which was exactly why he heard the horrifically disgusting things Mineta said to Yayorozu as she helped direct the last few students into their seats. It made Hitoshi feel sick, and they weren't even aimed at him. Hitoshi opened his eyes and straightened up from his slumped position, firmly set on putting the rotten grape in its place. Hey, Mineta, Hitoshi said, leaning across the aisle towards him as Yayorozu sat down, face red with embarrassment. What? Mineta replied. Suddenly his eyes got a gleam that made Hitoshi want to gag. You're the one with the brainwashing quirk, right? Hitoshi nodded. Yes. The girls all grew pale, realizing how much danger they could be in if Hitoshi and Mineta teamed up. The gleam in Mineta's eyes brightened, but Hitoshi cut him off before he could say anything. Do you know what drinking bleach feels like? Hitoshi asked, not blinking as he stared down at Mineta, head tilted slightly. It's horribly painful. It burns on the way down, and it burns even worse on the way back up when you vomit. It's truly an indescribable agony, but I would say it feels like a burning knife being taken to your stomach, throat, and mouth, over and over and over again. I bet it would be even worse if someone forced you to drink it. Mineta shrank away from Hitoshi, who leaned in a bit closer, still not blinking. Shinso, you shouldn't threaten our classmates, he scolded, standing up and doing his odd hand job motion. I wasn't threatening him, just sharing a fact, Hitoshi replied, still staring down Mineta.
How do you even know that?
Uraraka asked, looking very disturbed. Hitoshi broke eye contact with Mineta and met hers. I know a lot of strange things, he said before returning to his slumped, pretending to be asleep position and ignoring his classmates. Shota smirked to himself under a scarf as he listened to Hitoshi. Mineta, he called. Get off the bus and go to the principal's office. You'll wait there for me to get back from this class. UA has a zero tolerance policy for harassment, which means you're expelled. What? Mineta shrieked. I know you heard me. Do not make me repeat myself. Do as I said, now. Mineta cowered under Shota's glare and scurried off the bus. Shota turned to Yayorozu. Are you okay? She nodded, still red.
I'll be fine.
Good. If something like that happens again to any of you. He directed that part to the whole class. Tell me, I'll take care of it. After getting many nods of confirmation, Shota told the bus driver they were ready to go. As the bus started moving, and he started thinking. Shota knew where Hitoshi's knowledge of what drinking bleach felt like came from. He would always remember holding his newly adopted son as Hisashi called an ambulance. Bloody bile had dripped down Hitoshi's chin as he gagged, his whole body shaking. The memory showed up and showed his nightmares sometimes, and always left him with tears on his cheeks when he woke up. Hisashi and he had known Hitoshi wasn't in a good place when they adopted him, but they hadn't realized just how bad it was. They were careful, locking up anything that could be dangerous. They hadn't expected Hitoshi to steal money out of their wallets and buy bleach with it. In retrospect, Shota had felt beyond stupid. That was exactly the kind of thing he would have done as a teenager if he was in Hitoshi's shoes. Shota forced himself out of the memories. That was 3 years ago. Hitoshi was doing so much better now. Yes, there were bad days and times he hurt himself, but they were growing fewer and further between. After the Mineta incident, Hitoshi decided to take advantage of his pretending to be a sleep pose to try and actually fall asleep. He was just about to doze off when his phone buzzed in his pocket, making him jump a bit. He pulled it out to see a message from the Trouble Trio chat. Strawberry.
We had a free period and decided to see how much Izuku can deadlift.
Attached was a video file, so Hitoshi clicked on it. Izuku was laying on a bench in the gym with one of his classmates, a burly guy with white and brown hair, as a spotter. Izuku had changed into a tank top which showed off the way the muscles in his scar and freckled-covered arms flexed and strained as he lifted the barbell. He held it with his arms fully straightened for a few seconds before lowering it. He almost dropped it, but managed to put it back on the rack safely with the help of his spotter. Mei cheered from out of frame and Izuku sat up with a wide grin, looking very proud of himself. Hitoshi's face was burning, because Izuku used his upper body and arms for everything, including a whole lot of moving very heavy pieces of metal. He was very muscular everywhere above the waist. The sweat from his workout was making the tank top stick to his skin, outlining more of his muscles, and he had a deep flush to his grinning face.
Ooh, someone's face is red,
Ashido called out, drawing attention to Hitoshi. He put his phone back in his pocket and hid his face in his scarf, groaning as Ashido continued to tease him, asking who the lucky lady was. You need to stop teasing him, Ida reprimanded Ashido. He's clearly uncomfortable. Hitoshi opted to put on his noise-canceling headphones for the rest of the ride. When they got to the USJ, their team was there to greet them. She told the class about it, clearly excited and passionate about the building she had designed. It made Hitoshi smile. When she was done, 13 led them all down the stairs, into the water area. By the time they got to the bottom, Hitoshi was a bit out of breath. He dreaded the walk back up.
Can anyone here not swim?
13 asked the class. No one raised their hand.
Good. So today, we're going to be starting off nice and simple with a few bridge rescue exercises. You'll be working in randomly assigned trios based off of your seat numbers in a random draw. One of you will be the victim pretending to drown, and the other two will be their heroes saving them.
13 used a number generator on her phone to assign the teams. Hitoshi ended up with Kirishima and Sarah. Kirishima was enthusiastic, but Sarah seemed a little nervous around Hitoshi.
You three go first,
13 called, pointing at the group that consisted of Ida, Asui, and Koda.
Ida, you will be the victim. Everyone watch. You can learn from them to improve on your own run.
Hitoshi watched as his classmates did their run. Tsu was easily able to grab Ida and pull him up with her tongue. And Koda took off Ida's water-filled helmet. The class praised them. 13 gave them a few tips, and then the next group got to go. Hitoshi's group was the third. He was the victim. He climbed up onto the railing, and just as he was about to let himself fall, he had a thought. My support gear is waterproof, right? Because I have multiple weapons with an electric charge. I don't know, Shota admitted. You should probably go and ask. You should probably call and ask. Next group, you go while he does that. Hitoshi got off the railing and walked a little ways away, Kirishima and Sero trailing after him. Hitoshi clicked Izuku's contact and lifted his phone to his ear.
Hey, Toshi.
Izuku greeted cheerfully, picking up on the second ring. Hitoshi could vaguely hear the banging of metal and whirring of various power tools in the background. Sorry to interrupt your class, but I need to know if my gear is waterproof. I really don't want to have it go off while I'm in the water.
Oh, did I forget to mention the water safety feature? Sorry about that. You don't have to worry. All of your electric gear is designed to shut off completely when it makes contact with water.
Wonderful. Is there anything else I should know?
What fun is there if I tell you every little feature of your gear?
Hitoshi could practically hear Izuku's grin. You're insufferable. I love you.
Love you too, Toshi.
With that, Hitoshi hung up and tucked his phone away, making sure to seal the pocket so he wouldn't lose it. Kirishima and Sero were watching him with open curiosity, but didn't say anything. Good news. I won't turn this lake into a death pool, Hitoshi said as he walked back over to the teachers. Uraraka, Todoroki, and Tokoyami had just finished their run.
That is good news,
13 replied.
How about you three go next?
Hitoshi gave her a thumbs up and climbed up onto the railing again, letting himself fall and going completely limp in the water as he started to sink. A moment later, Kirishima dove after him, swimming down to Hitoshi and grabbing his shirt to pull him back up. Hitoshi struggled a bit, but Kirishima easily pulled him to the surface, where Sero pulled them up with his tape. Sero and Kirishima quickly became focused on their classmates, smiling widely as they accepted the praise. Just like a hero with the media, Hitoshi thought, standing up. Well, this is training, so I can show them their mistake easily enough. Hitoshi met Shota's eyes, winked, and collapsed, going ragdoll limp and closing his eyes. A few of his classmates cried out, and a moment later someone was shaking his shoulder. Hitoshi didn't react, holding his breath. He's not waking up, Kirishima said, panicked. Sensei, what do we do? Ah! Hitoshi sat up with a yell, causing Kirishima to fall back with a scream of shock. Hitoshi lay back down and started laughing, grinning widely.
What the hell, man?
Sero demanded. You don't just leave a drowning victim, Hitoshi said through his laughter. If this was real, I could have died. He's right. Even if this wasn't the best way to teach you that. Shota sighed deeply. Get up, problem child. The floor is so comfortable, though. Hitoshi shot back, grinning. Shota grabbed Hitoshi by the scruff of his suit and hauled him to his feet. Go stand with the rest of the class. You're wasting time. Hitoshi walked back over to the class, standing towards the back of the herd. His classmates were not so subtly staring at him, probably wondering how he wasn't terrified of Shota. Hitoshi decided to change outside of a stall when they got back to the UA. That turned out to be a mistake. A moment after he pulled his shirt off, he heard a sharp intake of breath. What happened to your back? Kirishima asked, stunned. Hitoshi stiffened and quickly put on his uniform shirt, hiding his many scars. None of your business. But there are so many, Kirishima said. When Hitoshi looked at him, his face was full of worry. Did someone do that to you? Are you in danger? Logically, Hitoshi knew Kirishima was just worried. But his scars were a sore spot and he didn't like talking about them. His eyes flitted over his classmates. They were all watching. They all had looks of horror, worry, and disgust. I said it's none of your business. His tone was sharper this time. If someone's hurting you, you need to tell a teacher, Kirishima insisted, stepping forward. Those scars are bad. I said it's none of your business, Hitoshi snapped, glaring. I'm fine. He grabbed his costume case and clothes and retreated to a stall, regretting his decision to ever leave its protection. Eijiro was scared. The amount of scars Shinso had was beyond worrying, and Eijiro thought he was probably being abused. He planned to talk to Aizawa, but the stoic man was nowhere to be seen. Eijiro did, however, run into Midnight, almost literally. She caught him by the shoulders, helping steady him.
Watch where you're going,
she joked, smiling at him and letting go of his shoulders. Well, she wasn't his first choice, but she was a teacher and a hero. Can I talk to you alone? He asked.
Of course. There's an empty classroom right over here.
She led him to the classroom and sat on the teacher's desk, legs crossed.
So what did you want to talk to me about?
I think Shinso is being abused, Eijiro told her, wringing his hands nervously.
Why is that?
Midnight asked, leaning on her knees. We were changing out of our hero costumes, and he was covered in scars. There were so many, and whatever caused them must have been really, really bad. Midnight nodded.
You did the right thing by telling me. You don't have to worry. Shinso is safe.
Eijiro nodded, shoulders slumping with relief. I'm glad.
Please, make sure to always come to me or another teacher if you ever think someone is in danger, alright? You might be wrong, but being wrong and telling is better than being right and staying quiet.
Midnight told him. Ichiro nodded. I understand. Chapter 20, Stronger Together. So there are some trigger warnings for this chapter. Self-harm, blood, mentions of suicide attempts, and discussion of relapses. Depression, suicide, mental illness, and self-harm. So if any of those is a trigger for you, please do whatever is necessary to keep yourself safe. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the chapter. One sec, y'all. I'm going to take a drink real quick. Excuse me. Dad? Papa? Shota closed his book and looked over to the back of the couch while Hisashi sat up from where he was laying with his head on Shota's lap, half asleep. Hitoshi was standing in the doorway to his bedroom, tear-filled eyes fixed on the floor. He wasn't wearing a shirt, and blood was dripping down his right arm and stomach from his shoulder and upper chest, which bore several cuts. He also had blood on his left hand, likely from holding whatever blade had made the cuts. Immediately, Shota and Hisashi stood and approached their son, who was trembling as he hugged himself, looking ashamed. "Let's get you cleaned up, okay?" Shota said gently. He knew one of the worst things they could do was make Hitoshi feel judged or like they were angry at him for his relapse. "Hisashi, can you please take care of the blood on the carpet?"
Of course.
Hisashi agreed, going to the kitchen to get the cleaning supplies while Shota led Hitoshi to the master bedroom, where Hitoshi sat on the closed toilet.
I was 6 months clean.
Hitoshi whispered as Shota got out of the first aid kit.
Why did I relapse?
Shota shrugged, pulling on a pair of rubber gloves. "It could be a lot of things. Did something happen at school? Are you really anxious about anything?" Hitoshi thought while Shota started cleaning his cuts.
Well, earlier today when we were changing after hero training, my classmates saw my scars. One of them, he asked, and the looks they all gave me, it reminded me of middle school. He kept pushing, and I got overwhelmed, and
He cut himself off, sniffling. Shota nodded in understanding. Shortly after Hisashi and him had adopted Hitoshi, his classmates had found out about him cutting. After only a few days, the entire school knew, and they started bullying him for it. The words were cruel and mixed with the bullying for other reasons, and suicide baiting had pushed Hitoshi to his first suicide attempt. The smell of bleach still made Shota nauseous. "If they ever try to start anything, tell me, okay?" Shota said, finished cleaning the cuts. Luckily, most of them had already stopped bleeding, and none were deep enough to require stitches. Hitoshi nodded.
I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I just after the locker room,
Hey, I'm not mad, Shota assured Hitoshi. "You told me now, didn't you? You had a bad day, and that's okay. You've been through a lot, Hitoshi. Healing takes time. It's understandable that sometimes you slip and relapse into old behaviors. Hitoshi leaned forward and hugged Shota, burying his face in his shoulder as he cried. But I've had time. You adopted me 3 years ago. So, just because it's been 3 years doesn't mean that you're completely healed. I'm still dealing with things that happened before Hisashi and I got married. Trauma doesn't go away quickly or easily. I know that sometimes it feels impossible to keep fighting, but just remember that you were clean for 6 months. That's amazing. Remember when you hurt yourself every day? How big of a difference is a day in 6 months? Hitoshi gave a shuddering sigh. I don't think I can make it 6 months again. Fuck. Why do those words hurt so much? I think they might have been a trigger. Shota replied. And if you don't think you can make it 6 months, then focus on making it one day. Okay, I'll try. That's all I ask of you. As much as he wished it didn't, Hitoshi's relapse caused his mental health to deteriorate. He lay in bed, trying to fight back tears as he curled in on himself, hands fisted in his blanket. Why can't I just be happy? He thought. I have a good life. I'm on the path to achieving my dream. I have everything I want. So why can't I be happy? Why do I have to feel so tired all the time? Why? 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 Sometimes, Hitoshi wished he'd never been born. He wished he would just fall asleep and never wake up. He wished it would all stop hurting. He was so tired of trying, so tired of being tired. Someone knocked on the door, then, and Hitoshi invited them in. It was Hisashi. He sat on the bed next to Hitoshi. How are you feeling, kiddo? Hisashi asked. Hitoshi was quiet for a moment, then hot, fat tears started running down his cheeks. Hisashi wordlessly opened his arms. Hitoshi sat up and curled into him, letting himself cry into his papa's chest. Hisashi didn't know exactly what Hitoshi had been through. His history, both before and after he was put into the system, was spotty. All he knew was that whatever had happened had been bad and had permanently scarred him, both physically and mentally. As horrible as it was, the truth was Hitoshi would never fully recover. His childhood would always haunt him. Hitoshi curled closer to him, hands gripping his shirt tightly. Hisashi rubbed his back, doing his best to offer comfort. It hurt so badly to see his son like this. He wished he could take it all away. Hisashi would have taken his whole family's pain, if he could, shouldered it himself so they wouldn't have to. Hisashi knew he was lucky. Even after he almost deafened them when he was born, his parents hadn't abused him in any way. His moms were kind and understanding, and he was so lucky to have them. He knew not everyone got the same luxury. The proof was carved in permanent marks on both Shota and Hitoshi's skin.
I love you.
Hisashi told Hitoshi once his tears had dried up and he was starting to drift off to sleep.
I love you more than you can ever imagine.
Hitoshi hummed quietly, and a moment later he was asleep. Shota found them curled up 10 minutes later. His expression was sad when he saw the dry tear tracks on Hitoshi's face. "What happened?" he whispered.
I think his relapse hurt more than we realized,
Hisashi whispered back. He ran a hand through Hitoshi's messy hair, working out a few small knots. He remembered how skittish Hitoshi had been when he first been adopted. He'd been so afraid of everyone and everything, flinching whenever they got close. Hisashi was honestly amazed how far he'd come in such a short amount of time. "I'll be having a talk with my class," Shota promised. "I'll give Hitoshi the option to stay home that day if he wants."
Good idea.
Hitoshi ended up taking the offer, and so that Monday he was called in sick, as was Hisashi, who stayed home with him. Shota also got explicit permission regarding his plan for the lecture, since he knew the students would make the connection between the locker room incident and the class. Shota strode into the classroom, mildly pleased at how quickly his class settled down. He did a quick roll call before he started. "Today, I have to talk to you about something very serious, so I expect you all to listen closely. Recently, there was an incident in the boys' locker room, and that led to a massive decline in the mental health of one of the students. I know teenagers are nosy, but if someone doesn't want you to talk about something, do not push, especially if it's related to their personal life, past, or scars, or any scars they may have. Doing so can trigger a person and cause them to do drastic things, such as harming themselves or others. If they're in a particularly bad place, it could also push them to suicide." The atmosphere of the classroom was tense and uncomfortable, and several students were looking anywhere but at him, but Shota wouldn't expect anything less. This was an uncomfortable topic, but it needed to be addressed. You never know what's going on inside someone's head, how traumatic the story behind their scar could be. Some are from something as simple as a bad fall. Others are from abuse, assault, kidnapping, or any other number of horrible things. So don't ask and don't push. If you have concerns, talk to a teacher and we'll handle it. Kirishima looked particularly ill.
It was Shinso, wasn't it?
He whispered, lowering his head and gripping his own hair. "Oh God, what did I do?" "I'm not saying who was hurt," Shota said. "I will say don't beat yourself up too much. You didn't know, but never do it again. You got lucky this time. You won't always." Hitoshi lay on the grass in the park, watching the clouds. Izuku was lying next to him, Clover next to his legs, and May had sprawled out with their head near theirs.
That one looks like cotton candy,
Izuku said, pointing at a fluffy white cloud.
They all look like cotton candy.
May replied.
All clouds do. Not all of them.
Izuku replied.
Some look more like plates. I've never seen a plate cloud,
Hitoshi said.
I don't really look at the sky.
There's too much going on down here.
Same here, but plague clouds are beautiful at sunset.
Izuku agreed.
The sun paints them all sorts of colors, and the way they layer makes them especially pretty.
I'd love to see them someday, Hitoshi said.
Add it to the reason to live list.
Izuku told him.
Under cats.
Will do. They were all quiet for a couple of minutes before Izuku said,
We should go camping at some point. Maybe over summer break? Sounds fun!
May agreed cheerfully.
I've been wanting to test the signal distance of a few of my drones. Being in the middle of nowhere is perfect for that.
It would be nice to get away from the chaos of the city for a while, Hitoshi added. Izuku nodded in agreement.
Nothing with super rough terrain, though, or I won't be able to do it.
Of course, Hitoshi said. There's plenty of camping sites with minimal walking distance. Minimal walking where we won't be packed around other people.
That would be nice.
After a while, Hitoshi broke the quiet that followed that statement. I relapsed a few days ago. Logically, I know healing isn't linear, but I wish it was. I wish all my progress couldn't be undone with a few words and looks.
I get that.
Izuku said with a sigh.
I wish we could just make a bit of progress and have it stick forever, instead of constantly having to fight not to fall again. I wish you didn't have to wish that in the first place,
May added.
I wish neither of you ever had to suffer like you did. Well, wishing will get us nowhere. We all know that. Besides, I never would have met either of you if my life hadn't gone the way it did.
Izuku pointed out.
So some good things came out of it.
Yeah, Hitoshi agreed. I'm glad I met you both. I'm happy you're in my life.
So am I.
Izuku and Mei said at the same time, laughing a little at their chinks. Izuku sat up, opening his bag and pulling out a frisbee. Clover immediately raised her head, eyes fixed on it. Izuku flung the frisbee and Clover jumped to her feet, running after it. She leapt into the air to catch it, shaking a bit before trotting back. She dropped the frisbee in Izuku's lap and backed off a few steps, ready to run after it again. Izuku grinned and threw it, Clover chasing after it. Hitoshi sat crisscross on the couch, smiling as he waved the feathered teaser toy for Mochi, his family's black smoked tabby. Shota and Izashi had gotten her from a shelter about a year before they adopted Hitoshi. Mochi leapt into the air, twisting as she tried to catch the toy. She snagged it and yanked it down, rolling onto her back. Hitoshi wiggled the stick, but Mochi held on, kicking at the toy as she chewed it. He managed to free it from her paws and she jumped to her feet, pouncing on it again. She was so carefree. Hitoshi sometimes wished he was a cat. Izuku tapped his foot to the beat of the music in his headphones as he fiddled with the wires of the wings. The feathers needed to be precisely done or they wouldn't work properly. He'd done about half of one wing, but with every feather he was moving faster as the motions were burned into his muscle memory. The frame of the wings was on the wall, spread out and bare. The feathers on a nearby table laid out in order. He closed the feather he was working on, one of the primaries, and laid it on the table. Then he picked up the next two pieces of metal and started the now familiar work of wiring it. Alrighty, y'all. That was definitely really heavy at points. Hitoshi is much darker of a past than in the original, it seems. But honestly, I do love the interactions between the Trouble Trio, especially. I also really enjoyed the handling of mental health and the special care and attention that the author Sunset Cougar gives towards it. Because I see so many times in modern media where mental health is kind of... a character is presented to have something and they present it as that, but don't really go into the darker, realistic parts of PTSD, bipolar, and things of that nature, even depression. And I think more people need to understand just how destructive those things can be to a person. I personally have PTSD and depression and anxiety and bipolar, and it can be rough sometimes. So seeing it represented in a more in my eyes, like in a more realistic light, is, I think, a really good thing, and I really applaud Sunset Cougar for that. But that being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or just want to chat about the story, feel free to hop down into the comments section below. I do my best to respond to every comment. In the near future, I'm going to be setting up a Discord server, so let me know if you guys are interested in that, so as a place we could chat regularly, you guys could get updates on how episodes are coming along, and grow our community past just the YouTube brand. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with me today. And I look forward to seeing you again in the next video. Ciao for now.